Lead Girl, the Be Well podcast is your dedicated platform for amplifying the voices of Black women in various roles, whether you're a teacher, school leader, higher educational professional, or educational consultant.
Join us as we honor the stories of remarkable Black women and share insights from our distinctive journeys in education and life.
Tune in as we explore the topics that resonate with us as women, as members of the Black community, and champions in education. Welcome to Lead Girl, the Be Well podcast, where we amplify the voices of Black women in educational leadership.
We are your hosts, Trelane
and Jocelyn.
Happy Sunday, Jocelyn. So excited to be back here again with you. How are you?
I am doing well. Looking forward to, a good week of being thankful, but also excited to talk about our topic today as well.
Absolutely. And I was this many years old when I found out that the two of you actually know each other. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm excited to get to know our guest, Dr. Stephanie Morgan Harris. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about this episode and who she is, and then we're going to get right into it. So today's episode is called The Joy of Servant Leadership, Cultivating a Thriving School Culture. It's all about heart work. The hard work behind school leadership, the humanity, the humility, and the joy, because there is so much of all of those things, especially joy. We're joined by the incredible Dr. Stephanie Morgan Harris, a visionary educational leader, equity advocate, and servant transformational changemaker. Her work spans principalship, district leadership, and state level influence. And she is reshaping what people's services truly means in schools: service, joy, transparency, and deep commitment to community. Dr. Morgan Harris believes leadership is ministry. Her approach is grounded in joy, laughter, and authentic connection, and she brings a refreshing honesty to the work of building thriving school cultures. From giving people space and grace to centering transparency and weaving joy into even the most challenging moments, she models what servant leadership looks like in motion. Time to hear from Dr. Stephanie herself. Hello there.
Hi. How's everybody doing this evening?
Fantastic.
Great.
Wonderful.
Yes. And
you want to kick
I
us
just want to echo.
Oh,
I was going to just echo that joy part, and just the grace, and just when you're in the space with her, automatically you just if you're down, you just automatically back up, right? And so it's really contagious, and I think that is an important part of servant leadership. And so I'm super excited to have her on today to continue to bring that joy, because we need that sometimes. Well, a lot of times. I know I do.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And even in just getting prepped for the show, she had me cracking up laughing while we were doing that. So I can definitely tell that is the case. But Dr. Stephanie, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and just what your current context is in in this world of education?
Wow, that's a deep question. I am situated and centered between motherhood. I'm the mother of 4 wonderful humans. My oldest son actually just left for the armed services last week, so he's been in the military for a week now.
Wow.
And so, he has a heart of service as well. I have a son in college at the Alabama State University, HBCU culture, my alma mater. Then I have 2 beautiful daughters, Sienna and Stephanie. I named my youngest after me. Yes, I have a sense of humor. I have my oldest, my alpha is Stephen, and my youngest, my omega, is Stephanie. Yes, I have a junior, because not only can men have juniors, I can have one too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the mother of 4 wonderful children. And then I'm also an educational leader. Education is my passion, it's my heart. Actually, when I went to college, I decided halfway through admissions and getting my schedule, I was like, I think I want to go into education. I think I want to replace every teacher that just did me dirty in school. Like every last one of them that was just like mean to me. I think I want to go take their job. So I'm gonna go and be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was sort of kind of rooted in the wrong way, but it turned into a positive because it's actually my heart's passion and my work, my ministry is teaching and serving in the public education space, not just in K-12 education, higher ed, and public policy. So I really have a heart, work, and mission in regards to public education and serving our students and children and educators across the nation. So that is where I come here in education.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on the teachers who did me dirty part. Um, I mean,
I mean, high school was an interesting journey for me. I've always been an advocate, but like that's when I realized I had a voice, is when I was in
mm,
high school, and I was like, that's not fair. That's not what the rules say. And so I
mm,
understand students differently, because sometimes rules are created and shaped and formed in a way in which is trying to control rather than to uplift and empower. And so even as a student, I spoke truth to power. Now, did it get me in trouble? Absolutely. However, some fights were meant to be fought. And so if my mom got caught, I was like, listen, mom, listen, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. And yes, I'm just not going on this. And she was like, really? I'm like, we'll talk about it when we get home. But right now, I'm standing 10 toes on this right here.
I love that.
So I understand students differently, and so any student that has come my way understands that I will listen deeply to hear, and if they're in the wrong, I gently correct, I redirect. However, if they have if it's some truth in the situation, I uplift, I empower. I will have that mediation conversation with them and their teacher. As a principal, we always had opportunity for students to have those conversations, those circle conversations, to restore the relationship so that teachers cannot hear their perspective as well, because it's not always just one side to the story.
Hmm.
So it was a very empowering to do that, and built a very a safe space for students to learn,
Hmm.
and brought the culture full circle. So
Hmm.
that's just who I am as a
Hmm.
person.
Yeah, no, that's lovely, and I think that even starting there, starting at that place, right? Because we all have our why, and sometimes, like you said, it's not the greatest of whys, right? And sometimes, we're inspired by a teacher, as I was, and others were inspired by someone who did not do the teaching that we may have needed, and we want to kind of right that ship. um, but I remember when you and I had our pre-chat, you had mentioned have your own definition of admin, and I was just wondering if you would just share about what you see admin really means.
Yes, yes. So I learned early in my career that administration is not just about managing people and leading and instructing and directing. It's actually the opposite. It's comes from the Latin to serve. So to be, if you look at the word administrator, in the middle of the word, you have the word minister. And a minister or ministry is to serve people. And a lot of people go into administration because they want to be the boss. Is actually the total opposite. Is to serve the people, to serve this present age, to be chosen to serve this present moment, to be in this season of service. Has never been any task in my building as a principal that was too big or small that I wouldn't do. If my security had an issue, I was right there alongside them. If my custodians had an issue, I was right there with them. If my teachers needed support, I was coaching and leading and teaching right alongside them. It was never anything that I wouldn't jump in hands on to work alongside or to serve alongside. Even now, in central office, we go into the buildings and we work alongside our principals, our teachers, and help. I had a teacher reach out to me, one of my new teachers actually, And she was like, I'm finna quit. And I was like, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. I said, I'm on my way. And when I got to the classroom, I just gave her a moment and I helped her to manage the class and I helped to jump in and work alongside her. And then during her plan period, we sat down, we looked at the lesson plans together and we set up a system and I got her a peer, a buddy, and we all jumped in to help and to support. I'm just that kind of a hands-on servant leader to serve. Mm-hmm.
I love that. Thank you for that. Mhm.
Yeah, I love it. Well, one, I want to say thank you for affirming something I needed. I have a child, that too. And I love that you brought up student voice. It's so important in being heard and seen, and not just for voice, teacher voice. And I love the ministry and minister in the middle of administrator. I never even thought of it in that sense, to be honest. But sometimes you're teaching your kids to amplify their voices, but sometimes, like you said, something that was really important, that you didn't realize you had a voice until you got to high school.
Mm.
I think my child found out she had a voice a little early on, but could you imagine if we knew that we had voices early
Ooh.
on, and what that kind of does to us when we find
Ooh.
out later in life that we can help have agency in the direction of what we're doing. And
Yes.
Oh
when you have
yeah.
leaders like yourself that kind of instills that and models that, I think it makes such the world of difference in where we are and where we could be in a kid's life. And so I just wanted to reaffirm that, because she too does have her moments where it turns into trouble, but it's also a learning opportunity. Because the one thing I've always stood by is that you have to advocate for yourself. No one's going to advocate for yourself but you.
Mhm.
And maybe
Mhm.
sometimes the consequences may not come the way you want them to. But I love that. And, and
But
I
with
think
that,
that's something beautiful.
yeah. And with that, we have to realize that we are um, educating and teaching our next lawyers, our next legislators, our
Yeah.
next president. Like they're sitting in our classrooms.
Mhm.
And so we want them to be able to have a voice, to be able to speak truth. And we have to model that. I think oftentimes we shut them down and we silence it, and then it goes into a place and then it builds up a bitter root of resentment inside of them
Mm.
where they resent the classroom experience. And with that, then we see the ripple effect of that down the road, because then they become parents and then they
Mhm.
remember being silenced in the classroom. They
Right.
remember not being heard in the classroom. They remember how they were treated. And so then that history, that memory then turns into the how they show up as parents when they're coming with their kid with an issue. That residue shows up when they're having that meeting with the principal, and you're thinking like, they come up to the school and they're cussing and they're fussing and they're yelling and screaming. No, that's trauma. That's
Hmm.
school trauma.
Yeah.
Sometimes we traumatize our students in the classroom, and then they carry that into adulthood. And so we have to. That's why I lead from a place of joy,
Mm. Mhm.
right, and laughter, because every situation is a learning situation.
Yeah.
Every situation is a learning situation. And so if you come to work and you don't have joy in what you do, if you don't enjoy what you do, then you have to examine that. I fill my bucket every day before I go in, because I have to pour it out. I have to give joy. I have to pour into others. So I have to, on the way to work, I was just joking before the pre-show. Yeah, I have my Tupac moments where I have to, ride to work, listen to my Tupac, my Nuck If You Buck. I have to ride to work, listening to my that's sometimes my ride to work is a praise is what you do. It all depends on the day. I can go easily from praise is what you do to Nuck If You Buck. Every day is a different day, but I fill my bucket with joy so that when I arrive at work, I can laugh, I can smile, I can show up. And that's the hard work,
Mhm.
because every
Mhm.
conversation doesn't have to be difficult. If you have relationship, if you have authentic relationship, authentic conversations, and if you're authentically pouring joy and you're doing it from a pure place, and speaking um, speaking joy and life into those who you come into contact with.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So and then that would leads into our next question. But this extra piece, I want to see if you can highlight on just, knowing that you come in that way and you have this sense of joy and you want to, you want that to emanate from you and through all that you do and say. But then there are folks that, where places where there's that school culture is not even ready to receive that, right? And so there can be sometimes negativity. There can be, hurt, right, from admin who did not have a heart of service, right?
Mhm.
All different kinds of things. So, how does that? What does that look like for you when you sort of come into contact um, with trauma, in a school setting that just doesn't really know how to have that joy, how to bring that joy
Mm.
back.
That's a great question. It's relationship. It's about relationship. It's about really being transparent and having those transparent conversations and building that relationship. And it's not easy. It's not easy by far because you're dealing with adult hurt is different than any other kind of hurt. Like they have long memories, and you have to build that trust. I have to first give a shout out to my superintendent, Dr. Teresa A. Lance, who has our leadership team reading a book. We're doing a book study on the book called Speed of Trust,
Mhm,
and it's powerful because it has you to really do the examination and the hard work as a leader, to examine some of those areas so that you can build organizational trust. And so once as a leader you go through those layers and you look at the various different waves of trust, then it helps you to be able to see where you can lead and impact culture in your school. So for example, it's something as simple as just the way you communicate. I remember when as a first year principal, I thought I was communicating because I was sending out newsletters and emails, and I was keeping the bulletin posted. I was like, it's like, no, you have a communication issue. I'm like, I'm communicating. I'm doing all of the things. I'm doing all of the things. And realize that that wasn't communication. Communication is deep listening just as much as you're talking.
mhm,
And how often as leaders do we sit and we listen to the culture, listen to our teachers, and actually deep listen, not
mhm,
listen to respond, but
mhm,
listen to hear what's being said, listen to hear what's not being said, observing body language. How often do we sit and just observe and hear and understand the um the undercurrent of the communication, the
mhm,
ripple effect of the communication. If when you say things like I have this expectation, okay, when you communicate in that fashion, what is the ripple effect of that? I remember as a dean, I would when I would you move fast as a dean because you're running from fire to fire to fire to fire, right? And you in the middle school, especially in the junior high with 1,200 students, you have, there's always something going on. And so a teacher would send me an email, and my response was, well, see me, 2 words, see me. Now, not understanding communication, right? I'm thinking I'm being responsive. Yeah, I'm just responding. Hey, see me. I'm going to talk to her in person. It's going to be quick, simple, easy, right? I sent that woman into a whole panic attack for 2 words, see me. I'm like, I was just wanting her to come talk to me. She had a whole meltdown anxiety because she had history with the word see me meant a difficult conversation,
mm,
meant that she was going to get in trouble, meant that there was a redirection coming. So sometimes you have to not just, you have to understand the layers
mhm, mhm,
of communication, and that helps to build that culture, that helps to build that trust, that helps to build that psychological safety that oftentimes is not present in education or in our organizational structure.
mhm,
Having that space where you know, where your leaders or your teachers are able to come and just have a transparent conversation with you because they are struggling in the moment, and knowing that it's just going to stay there. Are you a safe place? Again, you are here to serve. Are you a safe place for somebody to come to you and just to share, because they may be full and carrying all kind of things. They just need a safe place. Or are you going to be a person that takes that and then spread the gossip through the building? So it's communication, that transparency, that safety, that psychological safety. Those are all means and ways in which you serve, and build that culture of joy and safety.
Mm, I love that. Thank you. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jocelyn?
That's
Well, well, I'm
feed on
I'm
Yeah,
everything,
thinking,
just like digesting is it's a lot, and it's good.
yeah,
It's
but
so true.
I think about when you have I think about the realities. You have a leader that may have the mindset that you have that you're coming in, and um, really making an impact in those little things. Even the fact that you were able to identify your words in an email and the impact that text can have in or perspectives in communication. I don't think that that's something that all people are cognizant of. A lot of times, I said it, I sent it. I don't understand why. I mean, I hear that all the time. I don't understand why I did this and this. I mean, but when you communicate via messaging, sometimes the perspective is different, and so that's something that you own. So I guess I was wondering, how can you create an environment where, well, not you, how can others leverage those small nuances to continue to create environments that feel more valued and seen versus, stifled because, a perspective that is misunderstood? I mean, that's just one
Mm,
example, but it happens
mm-hmm.
often.
Yeah, it does happen often. It does happen often. You know, I always think of the end user. So I put myself in the shoes of others. And so it, you don't realize the impact. Your intention may be good, right? The intention may be wonderful. It may come from a pure place. But when the impact might be different. And so I put myself in the shoes of the end user. And so I had to realize a couple of things as a black woman. I'm a sharp dresser, right? And one of the things I pride myself in is I dress well, and I wear my suits, and I dress real sharp. But then I also realized that that comes off with my 3 inch and my 4 inch heels. That comes off, my presence. I walk into a room and I stop traffic. I my presence, right? It's a little much. My presence. Being humble, I may say, right? Being
Mhm.
humble. Um, and so what affirmed me and validated me in this work of this hard work is understanding that not just the communication of what is said in writing or what is said in word, but just sometimes your presence may cause that impact. It may cause that that discomfort. It may cause that you may not say a word, but your presence just may say enough, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And oftentimes, as black women leaders, that's something that we experience, and we have to understand that. And I'm reading a book right now, 107 Days by Kamala Harris, and there's a statement in there, a section in there where she speaks about, as she was running for presidency, how she had to be cognizant of what she wore. If she
Mm.
wore a dress, she had to be aware of how she's getting in and out of trucks and going up and downstairs to get on an airplane. And she didn't want any type of wardrobe malfunction. But at the same time, she had to be aware of the kind of suits that she wore, because certain cuts made her look certain kind of ways. If she wore a pantsuit, it made her look a certain kind of way. So she had to be aware of that presence as well. Same with me, right? I had to be aware of um okay, I need to soften my look a little bit. Not that I'm changing myself, but when you have a striking appearance, as I was telling Trelane as she was logging on, you just glowing. How can AI perfect perfection? Like, you glowing, you popping, you glistening. And then you walk into a building, everybody's like, wait a minute, okay, let me pause, right? it's that appearance. And not saying anything is wrong with this, nothing wrong with it at all. It's just the understanding that you have to account for and balance for that. So if your presence is striking and strong, then your words have to be soft and gentle. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Hmm. Hmm. That's interesting. And I think we were talking about this with one of our recent guests around this idea of transparency, and you've mentioned that a couple of times. And at the same time, there's this delicate balance between, being transparent and sort of in bringing, who you are, right, to what you do and to your work. And, I could see some people, having an argument to what you just said, right, around like how they are physically appearing, right, and then how people are receiving what they say and what they do. But how do you feel like that is in relationship to building a thriving school community, if you have that, in terms of the level of transparency that a leader brings?
Okay, great question. Because it's not about, the point is, I want my voice to be heard, right? But it's how I get my voice heard. Sometimes it doesn't have to be me physically saying it,
Mm,
as long as my influence is present. So you have to manage the message. It doesn't necessarily have to come from you. It could come from somebody else. It can come from another person. It could be another source.
mhm,
I leverage my leaders around me to be able to communicate messages so that that influence is present. It doesn't necessarily have to be my voice on the message. Um, I also realize that it's how it is said. Um, the goal is for the change to occur. You're trying to change and transform school culture, right? So the goal is the end result. And so how is your message conveyed matters. You don't want your message to come off like you're a bull in a china shop. Like, yeah, you can be direct. Yeah, you can say it directly.
yeah.
But how many cars are you gonna tear up like a bull in the china shop? How many things you gonna tear up by you saying what you're saying? Are you
Mhm,
causing the school trauma by saying what you're saying?
mm, wow.
Right? Are you causing unintentional hurt and harm as you are communicating? And I don't ever want anybody to feel that way. I remember having a leader, oh my God, I remember that feeling and that sense of, like, I remember crying. I was like, oh my God, just hurt my whole soul
Mm,
because it was so unfair. And I felt
wow.
like I couldn't be heard. And I'm like, if I ever was in that position, I would never do that to anybody else. Would never do that to anybody else. And so I take that as my lesson and my goal in life, that I want the message to be warm. I want the message to be gentle. I want the
Yeah.
message to be um to humanize it, right?
Mm, yeah. There we go.
To humanize it. And
Mhm,
that doesn't take away from your authenticity. It'll take away from your transparency. In fact, it makes you more human. It makes you more authentic. It makes you more transparent because you're showing up and you're being present and you're sitting down and you're having that conversation and you're being pure in that
mhm,
moment, um, rather than just being so direct and hurtful.
mm,
Um,
Mhm.
it's
yeah.
how, and that builds that trust. Again,
Mm,
for me, it's all about psychological safety. It's
mhm,
all about that hard work. Especially, so I work in human resources now. And so being through the layers and the levels of going from a classroom teacher to being a instructional coach, a dean, student support services, a principal, AP, like going through all the various different roles and layers, I've seen various different lanes in education, and I've seen how that work showed up for teachers. And
mm,
in that, um, just knowing how I can best serve that
yeah.
population, serve the school
Yeah.
community, serve the culture,
Mhm,
in my role.
that's good.
Yeah. Well, I love it. So I guess let's kind of switch to talk about soliciting feedback regularly. Like, even, when it's challenging, right? I always say feedback is a gift. But sometimes receiving feedback can be challenging, and creating a culture around accepting constructive feedback or just being open to other perspectives. But I know you and Tremaine had your pre-game talking, but I think what
Mhm.
came up in some of that conversation was your ham bone theory. All right. And so how how can you walk us through the theory one, and then like how it guides your belief about giving and receiving feedback with humility and growth in mind?
Yes, yes. I had a mentor, may she rest in peace, Paulette Cannon. I have to give this to Mother Paulette Cannon. She was my first mentor when I um, began work in the state of Illinois. And I remember getting some feedback on one of my evaluations as a teacher. And I was like, they don't understand it. They don't administration. They not understanding what's going on in this classroom right now. In this classroom right now, they not understanding. I get, the teacher across the hall got sending her kids to my classroom. I'm trying to teach my babies in my classroom, and little Johnny jumping off the ceiling. And she not understanding when she came in. What she really saw was me managing the moment. And Miss Cannon, in her calm, wise self, she said, well, sugar, this is what you're going to have to do. It's just like a ham bone. She said, take the meat, eat the meat. That's your nourishment. Eat the meat, take the meat, eat that part. That's what you take in, take the meat. She said, that's what you do. Now, on that ham bone, you also have some fat. That fat, you're gonna throw that away. That stuff that you can't do nothing with, it is no good for you. Just throw the fat away. It's not good for you. But that bone is that piece of the feedback that you don't know what to quite do with quite yet. Take that bone, wrap it up, put it in the freezer, and save it for another day. It's gonna make some good soup down the road. I said, what? But it made so much sense because it's so
Mhm.
true. Because sometimes we get feedback and it's layered. It's stuff in there that is not true. It's fat. It's
Mhm.
just not true. Throw that away. It's you don't need to. Don't even consume that. Don't digest it. Don't take it in. Don't take it personal. Just throw it away. It's things in there that, oh, I can use that. I can take that piece. I can make that change. I can make that pivot. Take that. That's the meat. Make those changes and those adjustments because that's what's good for you. But then the things and the feedback that you just don't know nothing what to do with or how to handle it or what to do, take that, wrap it up, put it in the freezer, save it for another day. It'll make sense down the road later on. Just wrap it up, put it in the freezer. And when it makes sense, you'll say, oh, I understand why I needed to do. Like, for example, I gave you an example about feedback. My superintendent always, told me I need to CC him on everything. My assistant superintendent told me I need to CC him on everything. CC him on everything. And I'm like, I don't understand why I need to CC him on everything. Why every email I send, like I need to CC him on every email, and he gonna see this and he gonna crack up laughing. Doc, this was my real thought. I was like, why do I have to? It made no sense to me. But I said, okay, I'm just gonna do it. It'd be the pettiest email, but I'm gonna CC him on this email. Yes, we need 12 chairs in the cafeteria. He CC'd on the email. It made no sense, right? And it made sense down the road because it was a situation where I wasn't able to respond, but because he knew the context, because he was on all of the emails that I sent, he was able to respond in my stead. And so he knew what was going on. He knew how to answer. He knew how to buffer the conversation. And so it made sense to me now, but it didn't make sense to me then.
Mhm.
So yes, that was my ham bone moment. That was that. I had put it up in the freezer. I said, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm gonna do it. And when it came back, I said, okay, now I understand. Now we cooking, right? Now we cooking. We got some
That's,
soup going. Mm-hmm.
that's good. That's good. You're making me hungry. But okay. All right. The next thing that we you were talking a little bit about the different leadership roles that you have held, and it seems like you have really been able to kind of spread yourself into lots of different aspects of school life, which is pretty unique, which is and wonderful. So, how do you stay rooted in your joy and your authenticity and been influencing so many people, especially the work of human resources? I'd love for you to kind of talk a little bit about how that plays out in that side, on that side of, the recruitment of educators.
Oh yes, that's actually. Um, I did not realize that that's my heart work.
Mm,
Like, I really enjoy human resources. I really enjoy recruitment.
mm,
Last year, I was uh, blessed with the opportunity to join the human resources team, and we had a 40% vacancy rate in my district. So 40% of our teachers, 100 and about 9 teachers, were substitutes. And my superintendent said, "Okay, I need you to find teachers." I was like, "Okay, no worries. This is about just 109 teachers, no problem. Say less, right? Let me click my heels." Um,
wow.
Let me sprinkle some fairy dust. No, just in all seriousness, it was a team effort. Shout out to the principals that went to job fairs that were part of the recruitment team. Shout out to the superintendent for the charge. Shout out to the whole human resources team. Deb, Dallas, Lanye, um, Maria, for signing me up for every job fair, packing up all of my totes, and processing every individual. I mean, I remember one day I made it back into the office and I had like 40 new hires, and I just dropped them on Deb's desk, and I was like, "Okay, they need to all go on the board doc." And she was like, "What?" She was ready to kill me, but it was a good problem to have. As we were recruiting, we partnered with, shout out to our sponsor, Peoria Public Schools, which is one of our sponsor for international teachers. We have 30 international teachers from 4 or 5 different countries,
Mm,
and we have, like, I want to say 30. I think it's 30 or 40 new teachers fresh out of college,
mm,
that were our interns or did their student teaching in our district. And so it was just really about partnering with all of our partner universities across the state of Illinois. And so it's really been a service to just really connect and partner and create pipelines to help people navigate those waters, to join our school district. And I remember in that process, you say about staying centered and staying rooted and staying grounded. My superintendent gave a speech, and her theme was "Hope Starts Here."
mm,
And in that kept me grounded. That uh, each person I connected with would be hope for our students. They would be the next person
mm,
to be in front of our students. They were the future of our school district and for our students. Creating the pipelines for our paraprofessionals and uh, anybody in our district who wanted to matriculate into a classroom. Creating those pipelines and those partnerships for them to have that ability was vital to the success of our recruitment process. And so I worked nonstop to ensure that we fulfilled our mission and our goal to staff our district. But in that process, I made sure that I took opportunities to feed myself, not just food, but feed my soul in rest, deep
mm,
rest. I think oftentimes we work so hard that we don't take time to fill our buckets with joy and rest. And for me, what gives me the most joy is deep rest,
mm,
reading, reflecting, just sitting in silence and allowing my body to just be still.
Mm.
gives me deep joy. Spending time with my family and my loved ones, and connecting with my spaces where I am received in my truths. Be Well is one of the communities I connect with. NAPSI is another community that I connect with, and I'm able to be received in my truth, and they understand the work and the labor and the intensity, and also the tensions and the oppression and the conflict
Mm.
and the brick walls and the microaggressions,
Yep.
and be able to speak to that and be received and heard and understood without even saying a word. Some
Mm-hmm.
just explain something, and it's just you was
It's
understood,
like,
needs no
yep,
explanation, right? Well, let's just
yep,
mhm.
mm-hmm,
I know exactly what you felt in that moment.
yep.
So showing up in those spaces and getting that support is affirming and life-giving, and
Mm.
it's my connection, it's my tree of life to connect with those organizations, and then pouring back into other leaders is life-giving for me. Helping others, oh, thank you for that word of wisdom,
Mm.
pouring back into others, because sometimes we face things and not sharing it with others. We just keep it to ourselves. We didn't had a whole testimony and we just didn't share with nobody. But pouring it back out to somebody helps to give me joy, and keeps me rooted and grounded in the work that I do. So it's a myriad of different things that I do to um, give myself joy, to keep me grounded. Just a myriad of things. But the first thing I do is I listen to my body.
Mm.
And whatever my body says, if my body says, Stephanie, lay down, rest, don't move, that's what I do. And if I'm sleeping for 16 hours, I'm not depressed. I'm just resting. I done worked for 7 days and seven days and 7 nights. And
Wow. No,
so
that's
if I just sit still, that's my body saying you need to rest. You done did too
yeah,
much. It's time to rest. If I
yeah.
want to get up and read a good book like I'm reading right now, that's my body telling me that I need to feed my soul.
Mm.
So I do a myriad of different things to keep me grounded and rooted.
Mm-hmm. That's good stuff. Love that. Jocelyn, you're on mute. Jocelyn, you're on mute.
Yeah,
Try again.
here we take two. For those who are listening, especially women, and women of color who are in leadership, what encouragement would you share about leading with joy, service, and authenticity, while also cultivating school cultures that really truly thrive?
So my dissertation was around um, Black women leaders coping with stress during crisis.
Mm.
And so it was rooted in the research around Black women leaders leading during the pandemic, leading during um, our 45th administration, leading uh, during a time where we were dealing with the aftermath of the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor as a community. And in my research, I found it amazing that Black women all across uh, in every piece of my work, and that in their narratives share stories of connection with their sister circle or a
Mm.
circle, their community. And so the first thing I would share with anybody, any Black woman leader: find your safe space, find your sister circle, find your connection, find your safe space, connect with them. It doesn't have to be large, it doesn't have to be a big group. It may be one or two, right? My sister circle, my sister, we talk every morning on the way to work, and we wake up in the morning, and sometimes it be, girl, listen, let me tell you. That's my therapy every morning. Every morning we wake up, listen, girl, did you see? Yes, and that helps get us ready for our day. Help us get us ready for our morning as we journey through the day. and it helps us to carry those nuggets because we give each other tidbits of advice. So that's the first thing. Connect with your circle. It doesn't have to be big, but it has to be somebody, that understands the body of the work in which you do. Somebody either that's in that same realm area or has done it before. Somebody that can understand that. That's the first thing. The second thing, my research just showed was the connection to faith. Whether you um, believe, don't believe, find yourself a place to center your joy, whether it's in your faith or not. Find your place to center joy. I'm a believer, so my faith is my centering is around my faith, and that's what keeps me grounded. I would say the majority of the participants that engaged in my research study um, connected with a faith circle, and that was what kept them grounded because it was the only way. The other thing was therapy.
Mm. Wow.
That was the third top leading thing in my research was therapy, reaching out and support and making sure they had healthy wellness strategies, whether it's counseling, whether it's going having a therapist session or engaging in a group a whole group wellness session, but having that opportunity to do that work because it is it's layers. We endure layers and layers of trauma as leaders that we don't even realize. Secondary trauma, compassion fatigue, coping with stress. We endure a lot of that. So, managing all of that and getting some healthy routines through that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, there is so much goodness, so many wonderful nuggets that you shared with us this evening, Dr. Stephanie. So thank you so much for this conversation, and just reminding us that this idea of leadership and joy, they can coexist. There's so much that we hear in the space, oftentimes outside of education, but sometimes those of us who are in education, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we forget that there is so much opportunity for joy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have the power to create that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have the
Yes.
power to make choices as leaders to say, okay, this is where the joy is going to lie. This is what I'm going to remove so that there's space for the joy. This is what I'm going to add so that there's space for the joy. And through that transparency, through that really poignant feedback, so we can use the ham off with the ham bone, like whatever that is going to be. That's what helps our school communities to thrive, when we have those opportunities to shape it in a way that it will thrive, with focusing on joy and truth. And again, the servant leadership is not about perfection.
Mm-mm. No,
It's not about
it,
perfection, but it is
it's
about
not.
people.
Yes, and realizing that you're built for this.
Yeah, yeah.
You're built for this. Don't realize in a year, 5 years, 10 years, what would be the lasting impact?
Hmm.
What would be the
Hmm.
lasting impact? Don't get too mad about something that in 10 years ain't gonna mount to a hill of beans. Don't get it's not that serious. It's just
Hmm.
not that. Don't stroke out over something that in 10 months ain't gonna even
Right,
matter.
right,
Give
right,
that
right.
grace and that space because we're all learning, we're all evolving, we're all growing.
Perfect. That's a perfect place to land us. Jocelyn?
Well, we want to thank everyone who has tuned in to join us live today, for listening to Lead Girl, the Be Well podcast, where we amplify the voices of Black women in educational leadership. Be Well is a nonprofit organization that is open for membership for you to serve the community we serve. So, if you are a Black woman in educational leadership, we are looking for you. So, become a member or support us by visiting blackwomeneducationleaders.com and follow us on social media on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Tune in for upcoming episodes on a variety of topics that are sure to address your personal growth and your professional practice. We invite and encourage you to give us feedback. We're okay with feedback.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am. Yes.
or, or request to join our show, bewellpodcast@gmail.com, or of course, reach out to us on social media at leaders_black. And we will see you next time. Until then, lead, girl.
You better
Leader.
lead.